Welcome, everyone, to Give a Shift, the podcast you want to be listening to if you want positive, radical change in your life. I am one of the co-hosts, Nancy Leeds-Gribble.
And I'm Alicia Ziegler.
And we welcome you. And we have a fabulous guest today, Angela Asia. Welcome.
Yay!
Yes. So I'm going to do a little intro for Angela, and I'm going to do her bio first and then a few words. Angela is an impact strategist for influential women who want to cultivate their calling, craft their story, and captivate their audience as a published author and certified coach. Women hire her to define and develop their calling, write their book, and learn the coach approach, a highly effective tool for relevant, resilient leadership. All of Angela's programs take place in Monarch University, coaching for life, leadership, and authorship. She is an ICF Certified Transformational Coach, best-selling author of Summon to Soar, 5 Stages of the Rise of a Woman, a speaker, and a trained chef. She also has some personal stuff, but I'm going to let her tell that. And she is also an amazing, fabulous, all-around, gifted, talented human being. You are, Angela, you are soul-centered. I love you to pieces. I just want to tell a little bit, like, I met Angela when I first moved here to Texas, and I had just come from Florida. I had left a very lucrative real estate career, although there was a whole series of stuff there, but I was really finding my recreating myself. And I met Angela at a meeting, and she was, I always say, silently observing all of us. And we were talking, and then it got to be Angela's turn, and she spoke. And the room, I was silent, and we all leaned in, and we were like, we need to hear whatever she's saying. I love the word Alicia has used earlier, a gravitational pull. Definitely happens when Angela speaks. And I think, and I believe it's because she speaks with such heart and authenticity, and truly is on a mission to help women rise. And she does it beautifully. She's faith driven. Wes, my husband, now I call him, he always
You haven't even told our listeners you got married since the
I got married.
We haven't had any, so thank you. Congratulations.
Bravo. But Wes always knows when I start to get a little squirrely. He's like, you need a little Angela in your life. I'm like, yes, I do. I've been blessed to be coached by Angela. I am blessed. I've said it before. She's like my coach in my pocket now when I know I'm going off the grid and I need to get centered. I need help in whatever way. Even writing a book. Angela is truly amazing. And all women, wherever you are in your life, you want to have Angela in your life. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Nancy, I don't know if you remember this, but we went to lunch one day. It was the first time we actually got to sit down and visit. And I started coaching you through some things. And yes. You did probably one of the funniest things that I've ever seen somebody do when it came to my coaching. You had this huge breakthrough. We were sitting in the middle of a restaurant, and you leaned back in the booth and you go, "Oh, can I have a cigarette?"
I don't smoke, people.
No, you don't smoke. That's right. But it was the funniest thing ever.
That's amazing.
I guess it was like this intimate moment that we had.
In the middle of P.F. Chang's, I believe.
P.F. Chang's.
That's amazing. I feel like if we opened Angela's door, it's going to have a line right there of women just
yes
knocking.
Yeah, that's true. I remember somewhere, I still have it in my notes, and it was fabulous. But she did right there on the spot, and I'm like, what? How do you just come up with that? Like, it was amazing.
The download.
But when you're gifted and when you know your calling, and then it comes naturally, and it doesn't mean it comes easily, right, Angela? Like
Right.
Angela has, when you hear her story, it's so powerful. And she is the epitome of rising. And I'm excited for you to tell your story, Angela, and a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am a single mother of 4,
Yes.
but I'm an empty nester now, so that is fun.
Yeah.
And I'm a grandmother of 6. My
Yay.
number 6 is going to be born in December, so I'm super excited.
Full
We're having
house.
another girl. So 4 girls and 2 boys.
Nice.
But I am a transformational life coach. And I really just, my passion is to help women overcome, those things that have tried to define them and in their past, and really help women break out of their cocoon and soar into a life of greater impact, because I really believe that every woman has been summoned to soar. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means later. But my story, I knew that I had a call on my life since I was in the 3rd grade. Very young, stayed true to that call. And when I prayed and I told God, like, I'll just, go to Africa and, be a missionary. Like, I don't even have to get married. And then I went to Bible college and married a fiery young preacher, and that changed everything for me. So, but we had a thriving ministry for 25 years, and I thought I was living my dream.
Yeah.
And my dream turned into a nightmare, and I went from being the first lady of the church to a divorced single mom.
Yeah.
I went from speaking in the pulpit and preaching to selling windows door to door, just to be able to make ends meet for my kids. I literally went from wearing a Rolex with diamonds to standing in the food stamp line.
Oh my gosh, right?
And so it's when you said it doesn't come easy, it didn't. Like, I thought I was living my dream, but then my world got turned upside down and everything changed. And I was very as you can imagine, I was angry at God. I was angry at people. I was angry at myself. And but along my journey, I met a life coach, and this was back years ago, where nobody really knew what a life coach was, except for a yellow-tied, high-powered, executive life coach, and so mostly for men. And so I, didn't know what that even meant, but something told me, like, I needed to connect with this woman, and I did, and it really radically changed my life. And so somehow I knew that wasn't the end of my story, what had happened to me.
Yeah.
And I knew somehow that if I would go through the process, that it could be the thing that would catapult me into my purpose. And I don't even know how I knew that, but somehow instinctively I did. And I held on to that. And so I became a life coach. And I really endured the process. And so I started helping women, go through the same process. And what I realized is that our journey as women mimics the journey that a caterpillar goes through to becoming a butterfly. And I never wanted to become the butterfly lady, but
but you are.
Yes. And
Here we go.
But when I realized how much of our lives as women really mimics what happens in nature, it really changed the game for me.
Yeah.
And, Nancy, you've heard me tell this before, but when, you were probably like me, you were probably taught that in kindergarten that the caterpillar turns into the butterfly.
Right.
But it's not true. we were actually lied to. The caterpillar does not turn into the butterfly. The DNA of the butterfly is trapped inside of the caterpillar. And when that little caterpillar goes into the cocoon, enzymes are released that liquefy her into liquid goo. They actually call it pupa soup.
Yeah.
And so the outer encasement of who she was has to be stripped away so that the DNA of her purpose, who she was really created to be, could be released, reshaped, and reformed, and then revealed to the world.
Powerful.
And so it's the same thing with us as women. The DNA of our purpose is inside of us, but most of us are walking around. That purpose is being contained by the caterpillar version of who we were created to be, and so we have to be willing to let go of the woman we become so that we can become the woman we were created to be. And that DNA of your purpose is inside of you, but we have to be willing to let go of our fears and our failures and our imperfections, and come out of hiding and be willing to show up. Right. And that's the hardest part sometimes, is just to be willing to show up, because we feel like, well, if I'm seen, if I'm heard, then maybe I'm being selfish, or I'm drawing attention to myself. But the purpose of a butterfly is to be seen.
Right.
Right. In all its colorful, beautiful glory.
Right. It fascinated me that we're so afraid to be seen for our existence. And it's like, kind of why we're here. We don't blend. We're not chameleons. We're
that's right.
Trying to stand out for a reason, right?
That's right. That's right. And so really, when you know your mission, your vision, your purpose, your core values, your passions, your potential, when you fall in love with you, I always say, Nancy, you heard me say this 100 times probably, but we teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. And so we have to go through that inward journey to where we begin to see our own value and worth, and we begin to validate ourselves, and we get to know ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get to know ourselves, then, I heard a quote. It says, if you don't lead your life, somebody else will. And I think that's what happens to us as women. We become the woman we're supposed to be instead of the woman that we were created to be.
Oh my gosh. I have to, go ahead, Alicia.
Well, I was just going to say, because you know her, but I don't know her. So for myself, listening to your story, I got two things. But one of the takeaways is, so you intuitively, because I believe that like they always say, mama knows best, but I'm like, mama, you kind of got to take a backseat to intuition, right? Like,
that's
intuition is always talking.
Yes.
Intuition, then mom. But you were saying, that you had made such a transition after having met this lady who also sounded like just that magnet of like, I have something boiling inside. But in telling us of the butterfly, if you're not yet the butterfly and you're going down the self-discovery, how was will you shift into following that intuition and then having that journey of being like, I don't necessarily know that I'm there yet, but I'm feeling called to do this. So what was the process of like getting your feet wet and to becoming a life coach in the position that you were in? And then that sounds like a huge metamorphosis.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I think the first step was really embracing the idea that what I've been through does not define me.
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like, from there, once I got that, then everything else kind of unfolded. But in my book, I talk about also Queen Esther in the Bible, and how she went through these same 5 stages. And there's an interesting part of that story there where, she was an orphan girl. If you read that story, Esther was an orphan girl, and she was taken into, she was discovered by the king's men and brought into the kingdom. And then she went through the beauty treatments and was eventually discovered and made queen. And so the king actually told her, he said, I am so in love with you that you can have whatever you want. So he had already told her, you can have anything you want. You just have to ask for it. but she was a Jewish woman and she was hiding her identity. So she was living in this kingdom. She was ruling as a queen, but hiding her true identity. And I thought, man, we do that as women. Like we can rule and reign, but we hide our true identity. We downplay. Yeah, that's right. The crown. We downplay ourselves and our value. But she. So in spite of him saying, you can have whatever you want, she decides to throw a banquet for him and butter him up. So it worked. And again, he says, what do you want? And if that wasn't enough, instead of asking for what she wants, she gets on the ground and starts throwing a fit. She's snotting and crying. Now you got to picture this. She's wearing a crown. She's wearing the queen's gown. Yeah. And she's on the floor throwing a fit. And the king, and the king,
she's a hot mess.
She's a hot mess. And the king extends his golden scepter and he says, get up and go write the edict to save your people. Go write it the way you want it to look.
There you go.
And so, that for me was a big turning point, because after, going from all these things, from, wearing a Rolex of diamonds to standing in the food stamp line, like I had to fight not letting that define me. Mm-hmm. And I had to really tap into the bravery to go rewrite the ending the way I wanted it to look. And I'm a recovering people pleaser, and so like it was so hard to give myself permission to write it the way I wanted it to look. But when I went back to who I was as a child, I knew that I was called to speak on stage. I knew that I was called to impact. I didn't make that up. It's been in me all along. And I had to go back to that. Okay, say, this is what I want the ending to look like. And then I created that new vision and rewrote the ending. And the rest just unfolded once I did that.
I always find it fascinating that we find it so hard to give ourselves permission.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's my life though. Like,
yeah.
Why? Why? I'm consulting everybody. Like, it's going to really take someone else to be like, no, do this. You're like,
right.
I know, because I've been telling myself every day, this is what I want to do, but I just don't have that follow through, or I just don't do it, or I'm coming up with all the reasons not to. So, yeah. I mean, I went as far as to tattoo, remember who you are on my body, I'm sure.
That's a great idea.
In case you forget.
I got a daily reminder, but I mean, it is, and it's one of those very fascinating, like it's almost like a mind trick. Like we stay in the cell of your brain of this, like, no, but I want to, no, but I want to. So for me, I always wonder, like when you're coaching someone, what is the like lock and key that flings open the doors and like helps someone, I would say, like our shifters that are really on that side of the fence of like, but I just need the impetus or that push or that.
Or can I even add, they don't know their calling. Like, I think that's such a big one too. Like I loved when you shifted the word, like the caterpillar doesn't become the butterfly. It's like, you're already the butterfly, but you have to work to become the butterfly. The caterpillar has to work. But what if somebody doesn't know like what they're to become? They just know, and I know you, I hope it's okay. I say stuff from the book, like in the ordinary, like you call it, when you're life in the ordinary, when you're just doing, you're just being, it's fine. Things are fine. But there's something more, but you don't know what it is. Like, what kind of, like for anyone that might be feeling that too, along with what Alicia was saying.
Me. I'll play.
Yeah. Alicia will play.
Go ahead. Let's do this.
Yeah.
The book's been sitting in 87 versions for 10 years. I mean, that's literally things like that though, right? Like we think we know, or the things that we think about the most, they always say like, what are the things that you think about the most that you wish you were doing? You're like, well, I can't really give up my life to go sit on a mountain and go hiking for
Yeah.
days on end, but it is true. I mean, Nancy's right. I guess before you can unleash someone out into the wild, it is, what is the thing that you feel you're the most called to do? But
how do you get there?
yeah.
Well, and so that, that's why I believe it is a process. And so what I do is I take women through a 12-week process because it is something that needs to kind of unfold.
Yeah.
But the first step is it's really simple. It's a 3-step process. And that is, number one, it's the unbecoming.
The unbecoming.
Unbecoming. And
are you writing this down?
I am.
Yeah. And that's where we're letting go of life in the ordinary, that where what we just settled for, the life of our comfort zone, letting go of, like I said earlier, those fears and failures and imperfections, and letting go, just unbecoming the woman that wears all the masks.
Yeah.
And and so once we've spent several weeks kind of stripping away those old limiting beliefs, I'm not enough. What I have is not enough. I need to please people, all those things. We strip those away, and then we go through the becoming. And this is where, and so the unbecoming really mimics what happens inside of the cocoon. And so what I didn't tell you is that, and this is pure science, it's all in the book, but when that caterpillar is in the cocoon, she cannot excrete. So, excuse my language here, but she's swimming in her own crap.
Yeah.
And that's how we are as women. Like, we're just going through the motions every day, taking care of everyone else. We put ourselves on the back burner. We're pouring from an empty cup. And we mistakenly believe that what we do is our purpose.
Oh, yes.
And so, but I don't believe your purpose is what you do. Your purpose has been in you all along. Once you identify that in the second step, which is the becoming, then your doing doesn't stop. It just flows out of who you are and your purpose instead of to prove who you are. And so, but this little caterpillar, she's swimming in her own stuff. And that's how we are. We're swimming in our own busyness and distractedness and all the stuff. And
we were just kind of talking about that a little bit earlier. Things.
Yeah, exactly.
But not filling your soul, not filling your,
Yes. And so we're swimming in our own stuff, just like that little caterpillar. But if she endures the process of metamorphosis, right, the caterpillar, she goes through metamorphosis and she becomes the butterfly. What's interesting is that the cells, when she is liquefied, this little caterpillar, there's these cells, and the cells stay the same. But those cells are what is reshaped and reformed. And so where like the caterpillar had thousands of little legs and beady little eyes, she could only see what was right in front of her, and life was just kind of barely getting by, but when she becomes a butterfly, she has multifaceted thousands of eyes. And so those cells, the same cells that produced her limited vision were the same cells that produced her multifaceted vision. And so as she endures the process, she grows her wings and all the things. And so she finally, you got to picture that she's this fully formed butterfly, but she's still in a tight place in the cocoon. She's all wrapped up around herself. And sometimes we feel that it's like, gosh, I know I'm called to make a bigger impact, but I still feel like I'm trapped, like I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And so, but something inside of her tells her to kick, and she kicks her way out of the cocoon. She falls to the ground in total exhaustion because it's hard. Breakthrough's hard work, right?
Yeah.
And so she falls to the ground. this is pure science. As she starts to flap her wings, she's now broken out of the cocoon. She begins to flap her wings. And as she does, it forces all of the excretion that she was swimming in back up into her body and into her wings and hardens.
Oh my gosh, that's what helps her fly.
All of the crap you've been through is what gives your wings the strength to fly.
Chills. I don't care how many times I've heard this, chills.
But you have to go through the process. And so, but what happens is that most women are not, they don't know how to go through the process, or they're not willing to go through the process because they'd rather stay safe in the cocoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
even wouldn't you say, even if you were like, if we say it's the comfort zone, and you probably get a lot of people, it's like, oh no, I'm not comfortable, I'm this and that. But in essence, they are even if it's negative comfort, it's what they know, and it's still comfort, right?
That's right. That's right. It's what happens to us as little children, we go through something that we have to survive. And so because we have survival instincts, we know how to survive, and thank goodness we do. But what happens is once you survive, that survival technique worked for you. Yes. But at some point you got out of whatever you were surviving and you were ready to start thriving. But those survival mindsets were never challenged. Mm-hmm. And so it's like you're trying to go this way and thrive, but it's like you're a river, and then that survival instinct is going this way, so it's like an undercurrent of survival, and that's why you sabotage yourself every time you're trying to move forward. You sabotage yourself back to stuck, and it's because of these survival mindsets that those are what become our comfort zone. It's whether our survival instinct might be to shut down, or to blow up,
right,
or to do nothing, or to run, or whatever it is. And so you have to take the time to identify what are those old patterns that I've just gotten used to. They've just become habits, and I'm comfortable with those habits, but they keep producing those, they don't produce the results that I really want.
Yeah. I love it.
So that's what our comfort zone is. And it's just really inspiring women, I think, keeping the vision, helping women, reframe or refocus, I guess I should say, on their vision and pull their dreams off the back shelf. Because when you can remember who you are and begin to focus on that, then the doing becomes natural, like it unfolds instead of you trying to muscle your way into something.
Right. Oh my God. So it's key to writing notes, key takeaways. Oh my gosh. I love the we mistakenly believe that what we do is our purpose. I think that is so tied hand in hand, and it's so often you meet people and it's like, hi, who are you? What the first question is, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And so I think it really becomes such a big identity. And just kind of going back to your story, obviously your identity was in the church and all those things. So you had to really lose that whole identity 100%. And really realize that is not what I do, is not my purpose. I can have my purpose in this other path. Yeah. And then do all the work to get there. Yes. And unbecoming, you don't hear people talk about that too much and that's so key, right? Yeah. Yeah. You hear become her, do her, become this, do this, become, but you never hear about hey, first we've got to get rid of all of this stuff first. Mm-hmm. And it's, it doesn't happen overnight. Just like we might talk about nutrition and weight loss, that you didn't get here overnight. No, it's not going to go away overnight. Exactly. So many key takeaways. And I would love to ask one more question. And then we can.
And I have like 67, so you can go first.
Yeah. What would you say? So like someone thinks like this is the purpose. Like when would you say, and you're not feeling the alignment like you feel like you want this. I know, girl, I know it. You want this up here, but all the doing to get there.
Nancy's talking about me, y'all, so it's fine. It's like I'm just gonna make Angela figure this out.
It doesn't always it doesn't feed your soul. The doing to get to what you think is like your ultimate purpose doesn't feel in alignment with your soul. It feels kind of like an energy suck. When do you know to keep going? And this might be a huge coaching question, and I'm sorry I'm asking it here. You could just give a tidbit. When do you know to keep going or to say, like, enough of that nonsense? Like, you've got to switch. You can keep that purpose, but now you've got to switch paths. Does that make sense? Did that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, so I think that because your purpose is not necessarily what you do, it's who you are at your core. It can look differently at different seasons in your life. And so, like, my purpose is to live and inspire transformation.
Yeah.
So I can see how my purpose, I was living in my purpose when I was pastoring the church, but I'm living in my purpose. I'm also living in my purpose now. And in the between stages, I was still living in my purpose because I was living inspiring transformation in my children.
Oh,
and so sometimes what you do changes. But if this is what happened to me, if your purpose is built on what you do and what you do changes, then you go through an identity crisis.
Yes.
And so it's important to know what your purpose is in relation to who you are at your core, so that when life changes, it doesn't change your identity. And so the best way I can describe this is one of the things we work on in coaching, and you've experienced this, Nancy. There's a difference between that, we are human beings.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but most of the time we're living as human doings. And so if you're doing something and to have something and then to be something, in other words, if I do a podcast, if I do a business, then I'm living with purpose. That's great. But what happens if our businesses get shut down again?
Right.
Like, what happens if we can't do the podcast? What happens if we lose the internet? Then that impacts your being.
Yes.
Now, who are you anymore? Right? And so it's about, you have to define who you are on the other side as a human being. So when you decide, because I am a woman of impact, I will do the things that a woman of impact does. Maybe that's a podcast. Maybe that's start a business. Maybe that's acting, whatever it might be. I do the things that a woman of impact does, and then I naturally have those things. But it's like, so if we have a football player, he's a star athlete, okay? And he is a star athlete. If he believes he is a star athlete because he makes all the touchdowns, if he breaks both his legs, poor guy, then he can
poor guy.
He can no longer be the star athlete. But if he decides that I am a star athlete, that's who I am at my core, even if he does not have his legs, he can still be a star athlete. He can do Special Olympics. He can do something else. It doesn't take away his identity. And that's the shift that we have to make as women, is that we come back to who we were created to be. We come back to the becoming, and we know who we are, why we're here, what we're here to do, so that no matter what we go through, no matter what we have, that can never define us or undefine us again.
Yeah. And it's true too, right? I mean, think of how many times it's interesting. You meet people that have like so many hangups, yet they gravitate so much to that underdog story.
Yeah.
Like we
Yes.
love the person that was under the rocks, barely breathing. The dog found them in the earthquake, and now they're like out doing speeches and changing lives, and or even like you said, like an injured athlete, or the stuff that Nancy and I were watching a couple of weeks ago through our networking groups about athletes that had been, not been allowed on a team, and then they get on a team, and then they're changing lives and inspiring communities. And there's so much of that. And I think that we forget that you can be that person that's making an impact. And so I think there's a lot of discredit to people who are like, well, I just live in here and nobody knows who I am, and it's not really that big of a deal. And so I don't have to take my dreams off the shelf. And but we really are energetically like this domino effect. So it's like the second, could you imagine, like, I have no idea how many lives you've touched. I'm sure it's insurmountable, but like, had you not decided to follow your intuition and have that life coach magnet moment of like, ding, I'm just going to follow that. I know I'm selling windows. I know I have kids to feed. I know that my life was this, but this is my new calling, and I'm just going to follow it. And you did. And like, dynamite, like, look where you are. You have a book that changes lives. And I mean, that's so inspirational. And I think that people kind of like, that's why I was thinking in my head, asking you, because I don't know you, like, what was that for you that said, no, I can do this?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and I think it just comes down, we forget. We just plain forget.
Yeah.
And I think I was surrounded by podcasts, things that I was hearing that kept speaking deeper than my flesh. They kept speaking to my soul, like, and waking that up and reminding me. And I think that's why I wrote the book. That's why I, get on a podcast or, speak from stage or whatever, is to ultimately wake women up just to remember who they are. And once you get a glimpse of that and you remember, it's like, when she wakes up, she wakes up. Yeah.
It's amazing. I remember very well when we first met and you were talking and telling me about when you became a life coach. And I just want to bring this up because I don't want any listener to think, oh, she spoke on stages before in the churches, so it's easy for her. Because I remember you telling me, like, doing your first sessions and stuff, and you had, I think it was a gentleman who reached out to you, and he was very, not, I'm trying to think of the word. He was a well-established business person, had his strong opinions, and knew he needed a coach. And somehow you two connected, and you were able to help him transform his life. And I remember you telling me, it was like, then you were like, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I can really do this. And I think it's so key to everyone to know you're going to have doubt, even when you're transforming, right? You're going to have those doubts along the way. The thing is to do the action anyway.
Yeah.
And you're going to start proving to yourself, you're going to start showing yourself you can do it. Because I remember I don't remember this specifics, but I remember you telling me that, like, in that moment, you knew, like, if I can coach him and transform him, like, it's in me, I can do this. And you kept crafting your, honing your skills and things like that. But, it's important to know it didn't come easy. That part of it didn't come easy to you too. You do have to work for these things and practice and things like that, and overcome your doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
And you did all of that.
I think sometimes we're going after perfection, and that really trips us up as women well, if I can't be perfect, then I won't do it. But I think it's really important to know that the word perfection actually has two meanings. And one of those meanings, that is flawless. And that's usually what we're thinking, when we're going after perfection. But it also means accuracy. So when you're out there practicing, like, that is perfection.
Yeah.
perfection is not getting it right. It's just taking the action.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was selling windows door to door, and I was trained by an old school salesman, and I was so frustrated. And one day he said, quit going after the yeses and just go get as many no's as you can.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like,
and you'll get them in spades.
Be an actor.
Success every day.
There you go. You know
Oh,
this.
I'm relieved.
That's right. The yeses just come, but it's not. It's just the act of pursuing, right? Like a no.
No, and it's true. I mean, it's so funny because I was, telling Nancy that, you never are necessarily where you think you're going to be or this projected thing or whatever. But I always tell myself I have some darn good tenacity because I've been doing this for 30 years and I still take no. I'm like, okay, you know what? Next. Like every time is still an opportunity for it to become a yes. To fulfill that passion or to have that moment in time or to have that memory or create those relationships or to be on set and create that magic or to be in a mess and help glue it back together on set. Like there's so many obstacles to what you see on TV. I mean, there's just so many things happen that you do not see. So it cracks me up when I get to watch things with people that are like, and you're like, yeah, but if you were there.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But at the end of the day, like you said, I think you are, to what Nancy was saying about how do you know you're following your passion, and you were knowing once you grow out of that no kind of almost becoming comical, where you're like, then I'm just, as long as I'm me.
Yes.
I'm just going to show up and be me. And when that's what they want, or someone wants to buy it, or that's enough, then that's what I'm doing. But until then, what is my soul food? I'm going to just do what makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's not going to always necessarily look like it's supposed to look, but as long as I'm not quitting on my dreams. So yes, I'll call you about the book. But yeah, I mean,
we got to get her here to the conference.
Right? End of September. But having that follow through, and it sounds to me like that's what you did on your dream and the life coaching is just really taking that first actionary, I don't know what I'm doing step, and then following through on it, and then having it really truly be something that was like a butterfly and super transformative. And now it's just created a ripple effect for everybody in your path. But how profound and how cool.
Yeah.
To have gotten the download and then been and trusting it. There's the other thing, right? The remembering who you are, but then trusting that you're good. That's good.
Yes.
You're enough.
That's it.
You're here. You're awesome. You made it. You're here. That's good.
I think you said just letting that I'm enough, and that that just when you let that sit down inside of you, and it changes everything.
It changes everything. And with that, I know we are running out of time. I want to tell everybody, Angela changes everything. I think there's a song, the Mambo No. 5. It's like, I need a little Angela in my life. I'm just saying. I truly believe people are going to, when they listen, they're going to go, oh my gosh. And I'm going to have Angela in a minute. I'm going to have you tell people where they can find you. I'd love to hear a little bit about the conference. I'm going, tickets bought day one.
Is it an online or in person or both? Or
it is in person only.
Okay.
It's going to be Friday night, September 29th. And then we get done on Sunday morning, October 1st. And so we're going to have a comedian come in, just, women, empowering women. We're just going to you're going to hear some women's stories. Saturday is going to be just very transformational, lots of on-the-spot coaching, but also lots of exercises, some incredible speakers. And then we'll take a break about 3:00 and go get ready. And then we're going to have a nice dinner. And then any woman that has gone through any of my programs, they will walk the stage and graduate. Nancy.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. And so, so then I'm certifying 9 life coaches that night as well. And they're going to tell their stories, and they're actually going to speak that night. So
Oh, that's
Getting
fantastic.
super, super powerful.
So you'll all be getting crowns and I'll be running 50 miles.
Oh,
There you go.
I'll be crying.
Yes.
Wow, Angela, that's incredible.
It's
Thank you.
amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And so I'm going to have you in a minute again, tell people where they can find you. But I do just want to say the book Summon to Soar, the 5 stages of the rise of a woman is, I mean, one, it's so powerful, but it's also, truthfully, it's an easy read. Like, you're not going to get in here and go, I don't understand what she's talking about. I can't, how can I apply this? You can literally apply what you're learning from the book. And you probably get it on Angela's website, but also Amazon. Am I correct?
Amazon, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazon.
So I recommend this book. And then Angela, how can people? Yeah, and of course I had a signed copy.
Amazon.
Angela, how can people find you, start following you, learn more about the conference? What is the best way?
Okay, so that's a great question. So my website is being completely redone. If you go to angelaaja.com, it is still right now it's my old website, but
Okay.
you'll still get a little bit of a feel, but it's being completely updated. So I think the best way to connect is if they follow me at on Facebook.com/Coach Angela Aja. That is my business page, and I have information about the conference, information about my book, information if they want to book a call with me. That's the best hub right now is Facebook.com/Coach Angela Aja.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, perfect.
Too.
He's got 5 stars. You see that? That's fine. And it's already hearted.
It's already hearted.
Yay, that's awesome.
And so we'll put that in the show notes because I know people are going to want to find you. I love you. I thank you so much for taking the time to be with Alicia and I today, to share your amazing story and your insights, and for being who you are and helping women be who they are meant to be. You truly are, to me and to so many others, such a blessing. And God knew what he was doing.
Thank you so much, ladies. You're awesome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. To our listeners, make sure to follow Angela. Make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast, Give a Shift, and please share it with anyone you think also would love to make radical, positive change in their life. Bye.